Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 158 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. Now, I'm enjoying Zoologer a lot. I haven't seen the most recent episode, but I'm going to get to it in the next couple of days, and of course, see the newest one coming out on Sunday. But it's a good series. I like the characters, I like the setup, I like the aesthetics. There are a number of things to go ahead and like about the series. But there is one thing in particular that's been bothering me. And no, it's not the origin of the Zoomans and Zooland and all that, but it's the Visor Up concept and how it's utilized and how it's not utilized. So before I go into my problems with it, let me go ahead and explain it for those of you who have not been following the show or need a refresher, because I think I really need to go ahead and break it down to fully explain the problem that I have here. So as you guys know, all of our characters are based on animals, and eagle, shark, lion, tiger, elephant. There is a particular episode where they meet another Zooman, Larry the gorilla, who is a great character. I love Larry. I hope we get to see him later in the series. But there is a particular moment where Yamato is injured and he is dying. And Larry, through the power of the Mark of the King, is able to transfer part of his life force into Yamato, thus restoring him to life or preventing him from dying, because I don't think he actually died. Now, as a result of this process, Yamato now has the ability to do the visor up, which means he takes his visor that's on his helmet and moves it up and switches from Zuo Eagle to Zuo Gorilla. In effect, he has two modes now. And also, because of this, because he can switch from Eagle to Gorilla, he now has a new Zord, the Cube Gorilla. And that's pretty cool. It's a pretty great concept in itself. It also explains why Yamato has the Eagle powers to begin with, because the same procedure happened between him and the Birdman, how the Birdman transferred his life force into Yamato, and thus given him the spirit of the eagle, so that he can thus use the Mark of the King to turn into Zuo Eagle. So it's tied into the mythology, it's tied into the powers. It explains why the other Rangers have these animal powers, that they seem to be based on the, I guess you're going to call it, zoo energy or life force that's in their bodies, that it reacts to whatever animal that you are or spirit of animal that you have in your body. We're eventually going to get the appearance of Zero the World. Now, his gimmick is that he is three animals in one, that he does also have the visor up mode, that he is the default rhino, he moves the visor in one direction, he becomes a wolf, and he moves in the other direction, he becomes a crocodile or alligator. And that's a great gimmick. We have it with the Red Ranger. He has an eagle. He has a gorilla. We have Zero the World, who has the wolf, the crocodile, and the rhino. That's great. The problem, however, is that Sela, Leo, Tusk, Amu, the other zoologers, have not gained this ability yet in the series. And based on number of factors, it seems like they may not get it later in the series. So the speculation at this point is that only Yamato and Zuo the World are going to have the visor up modes, that they are the only ones who are going to switch between animals. Further, by looking at the toy catalogs, it is confirmed that we will get a Zuo whale later in the series, who happens to be red. So, further implication is that Yamato is going to be not only Zuo Eagle, Zuo Gorilla, but he's now going to have a third alternate mode in which he is Zuo Whale, and even though we don't have the 4-quarter catalog yet, he's going to have his own Whale Zord, which will serve as the carrier and the catalyst for the Ultra Zord later in the series. So what's really bothering me about this is that we're giving our 6th Ranger and our Red Ranger all these power-ups, but we're not doing anything for our other 4 Rangers, for our other Zoomans, because it's just kind of an odd thing when you actually look at the series from the first episode up until now, and what we're going to be getting down the line within the series. Because remember what I said about him getting his own sword in the series? Well, they all have the Instinct Awaken modes where they can get the claws, the feet, and of course for Yamato, the wings. But in addition to that, they have their blasters, which can also turn to swords, but only Yamato has a specific weapon tailored to him, his Eagle Riser. None of the other characters have a weapon. Why is the Red Ranger the only one getting a weapon? Then later, when we have this whole incident with Larry to become Zero Gorilla, well, there's a story reason why he becomes Zero Gorilla, but what about the other characters? Aren't they going to get a weapon or an upgrade or something like that? We're going to get that later in the series? And then we're going to get Zuo the World, and he already by default has 3 different modes to go to. So why are the other characters not getting any of these upgrades? The best way I can describe it is that imagine we have the Lights of Orion, and Leo was the only one that could use its powers. Imagine that we had, the SWAT armor from SPD, but only Jack could use the SWAT armor. This is, here's the thing: is that a battleizer is one thing. I get that a battleizer, it's for the Red Ranger. We get it later in the series, yada yada, and all this stuff. But this seems to be something that is default for all the other Rangers. This seems like a team power up, or it was designed to be that. Because my speculation is that they have designed each of the zoologers to have this visor up mode, and the evidence is there for it, because look at their helmets. Take a good look at the helmets when we get a side view next time. It honestly looks like that they could raise the visors up, that could actually be done. Looks like there's hinges on the side, that there is something below the helmet, that there's something else there. One of the criticisms I had with the Red Ranger when we first got his introduction was his color scheme and how it looked odd on the helmet with that gold. But when you actually factor in that he has the visor up mode and he can change from Eagle to Gorilla, the design makes a little bit more sense. Consider Leo's design for his helmet. His helmet, honestly, if you were to look at it without knowing that it was a lie and just ask somebody, what animal is this? I honestly would have picked a bird of some kind. It does look more like a bird than it does look like a lion. Now, the only way to really justify the way it looks, in my opinion, is that he has a visor up mode that makes it look that way, but when we do the visor up, it is a completely different animal, and it's like, oh, okay, the reason it looks that way is because the animal that was beneath it lends to the aesthetic, it lends to the design. You guys see what I'm saying there? It seems like they were designed for all 5 of them to have a visor up mode, and we would eventually get it. Because my belief was, once we saw Zero Gorilla, it was like, okay, so everybody's going to get this visor up mode. They're going to encounter more zoom-ins. They're going to give them their life force, whether they die or it's willingly or something. And each of the characters are going to have an alternate mode. Like Sela is a shark, but she does the visor up. She becomes a dolphin, just saying. Or Amu, who is the tiger, she does the visor up and she becomes, I don't know, a hyena. Any kind of animal there. And that would lead us into our next set of Megazords. That, hey, we got the first 5, and we got 2 Megazord sets right there. But Sela, Leo, Tusk, Amu, we're all going to get more cubes. That cube number 7 would be Sela's new Zord. And that, much in the same way the Red Ranger, he has red as his primary, but dark red for his Gorilla mode, that we have Sela, because she's already light blue. Keep that in mind. And then she gets her new Zord, or new cube, and it's a dark blue. Same thing with Leo. It's a yellow cube for the line, but he does visor up. He gets a new Zord. It's a dark yellow. That's the weird thing. Is like, if you actually look at the color scheme, these are very light colors, much in the same way of Tokuger. Look at the green, shade of green on Tusk Azuo Elephant. It's a very light green. I could honestly imagine, he does a visor up and goes into a hunter green, dark green form. And even with Amu, you can find some way to make that a silver or a gray, or heck, might even make it a pink ranger, depending on the way you want to go with it. The point is, they seem like they were designed to go ahead and do it, and I was all thinking, hey, that's what's going to go ahead and happen here. Then we got the release, or the information for Zhu Whale. Now, when I first heard about it, it's kind of like Zhu Whale. Okay, so this is going to be the power up for Sela because it makes sense. She's the shark. It's an aquatic animal. It's going to go ahead and be hers, and she's going to get a whale Zord, cube number 10 or something like that. Because at this point, we know 7, 8, 9 are going to go to our 6th Ranger. Imagine my surprise when I saw that it was a Red Ranger that was getting this form. Now, it is entirely likely that we could have a 7th Ranger who is also a Red Ranger. Hey, we got a 6th Ranger who's also a Red Ranger back in Time Force, so it's entirely possible that the 7th Ranger is going to be a Red Ranger. But, history's telling us also that it could just be another power-up for the Red Ranger. And so I ask, why is it we're giving all the goodies to the Red Ranger, but we're not giving anything to the other Rangers? The Red Ranger has his own specialized weapon, other Rangers don't. Red Ranger has a Visor Up mode, other Rangers don't. Red Ranger has 2 Zords, every other Ranger has 1, not including the auxiliaries. Then we're going to introduce a character who has 3 modes, who already has 3 Zords of his own, and yet we still have these other characters waiting in the wings with no other power-ups. And then, of course, again, if by all indications, Yamato is going to become a Whale Ranger, and he's going to get his own Whale Zord, which will likely be the largest, again, catalyst for an Ultra Zord formation. Why are we giving the Red Ranger all these things? How come we're not giving the Visor Up mode or any other individual weapons for these other Rangers? Because, again, what it occurred to me was that we're going to do, in the first few episodes before Zero of the World comes in, we'll give each of the characters a new weapon and some way of obtaining them. The short-nosed elephant episode for Tusk could have been an easy way to give him a weapon upgrade of some kind. I don't know how you would do it, but do a character episode, explore the character and who they are, they learn a lesson, and they gain a weapon at the end of the episode. Isn't that the formula we usually get in the series? Now, it's great that they're not going by form, but, some sort of reward like that would be great, especially when you have no weapon. Because again, consider this. All Tusk has is a gun, a sword, and his feet. That's literally all he has as a weapon. But again, look at everything. Heck, Yamato gets muscles and becomes like the Hulk when he becomes Zuo Gorilla. He can swing from vines, and he can shoot steam out of his nose. The other Rangers can't do that. So why is the Red Ranger so special? I read somewhere, and I can't recall where, that apparently Japanese fans, one of the reasons they don't like Power Rangers is because of the focus of the Red Ranger. Is that they give him so much focus with the battleizer and the storylines that they get really upset about it because the core concept of Sentai is it's a team show. Is that it's about all the Rangers, not just the Red Ranger. And I'm willing to believe that, and I can see that. But then we get things like we get Right in Tokuger. We definitely get Shuriken Red last season. How somebody please tell me how the crossover movie was Tokuger versus Ninja, and yet it became a movie where the Red Ranger had to learn a lesson. Who all the episodes were pretty much dominating in the first half of that season. Eventually they got to the characters, but it was still about the Red Ranger in the crossover movie. And now here we are with Yamato because I want you to consider this about Yamato's character. It's a great character. I love him and everything. I think he's a fine Red Ranger. But he's presented as a zoologist, which means he went to college and is apparently the most educated of all the characters. He gets, he's resurrected, essentially. He gets all the cool weapons, gets all the upgrades, gets 2 Zords, and he's the leader of the team, while at the same time being an outsider and the unifying force of the other characters, and he's the one that's bringing the other characters together and getting them to learn their lessons. Because, he basically got Tusk to accept him in the first couple of episodes. He got Amu to stop doing the things that she's doing because she was being, she wasn't being very helpful in looking for the Mark of the King. And I would assume somewhere down the line we're going to get him and Sela do. Well, I mean, he's the one that's helping Sela with her relationship with her family and how they're feeling bad. And he was trying to help her there. And I can only imagine that he's going to have something to go on with Leo here in the near future and some sort of connection to Zuo of the World. So far, even though he's not dominating as far as number of episodes center around him, the series clearly favors our Red Ranger, and this is something that is becoming a trend in the series, to where now it's like, heck, we have all the stuff going to the Red Ranger. These other guys, let's not worry about them. They're just the other heroes on the team. And I'd like to focus on the other characters, give them some cool stuff, some other things to go ahead and do, but the series doesn't seem to be interested in that. And there are a lot of people saying that the other Rangers are not going to get Visor Up mode. Now I contest that they can, because there is evidence to suggest that. Like I said, the helmets look like they are designed to go ahead and do that. We know the process is to transfer the spirit energy, and a lot of people say that's actually limited to only Yamato because he's human. I don't believe that's the case. I believe anybody can get the animal spirit transferred, because if it only goes to humans, then what's the point of doing it? The prerequisite just seems to be the mark of the king. And I can totally see that if we have a zoo human who's a panda who interacts with Leo, and they use the mark of the king and transfers the spirit over to Leo, I can totally see that happening. There's no rule saying that a Zooman can't receive the life force of another Zooman. Again, that's not indicated anywhere in the lore right now, and there's nothing to go ahead and contradict it. On the flip side, there are some legitimate arguments as to why the other characters are not going to go ahead and get these powered up forms. The most logical thing, and really the only thing that I kind of really put any weight in, is the toy release schedule and the release of the Zoo Whale information. Because again, there's no way the Zoo Whale can be Sela, Leo, Tusk, Amu, or even Zuo the World. It's either going to be Yamato or it's going to be a completely different character. We don't know which one it's going to go ahead and be yet, okay? But if it is Yamato, it tells me that you have 3 forms for the Red Ranger. It doesn't seem likely that they're going to give an additional forms to the other Rangers. Now, would it be great that all 5 Rangers or all 6 Rangers get 3 forms? That would be great, but it seems the projection that they're going, that the Red Ranger have 3 forms, the World will have 3 forms, and everybody else will have 1, because they are not the Red Ranger or the 6th Ranger. The other events would be in the toy release, because again, let's look at the numbering system here, because again, my thought was Red Ranger number 1, his secondary Zord is number 6. Blue Ranger is number 2. Secondary Zord is number 7. And then again, we get to Tiger and 5 and 10. You guys see where I'm going with that. However, a couple months ago, it was revealed that number 7 would be, I think, the crocodile. Number 8 would be the wolf. And 9 would be the rhino. So the numbering's a little skewed there. But there's still no reason why it couldn't be, Sela's next Zord could be number 10. The line could be number, whatever Leo's alternate form could be 11 stuff. Because even look at Tokuger. Because keep in mind, the funny thing about Tokuger is the Diesel was marked number 6 in the toy catalog and is marked as Zord number 6 in the toy line and in the series. Yet our 6th Ranger, Akira, is our Orange Ranger, and he has his own Zord, which really has no numbering to it. So, no points for consistency for Tokuger, and I imagine that, we weren't going to get that type of consistency here. But what it kind of seems to be happening at the moment is that we have no information regarding the release of Zords beyond the 3rd quarter. The rumors right now are that we are going to get Zuo Whale Zord, and it kind of seems to me if you're going to give one for the gorilla, you're going to give one for the whale, and we need an Ultra Zord for the series, but no other rumors beyond Zords like that. We have the 6 current Zords and the 3 auxiliaries. We have the Zuo World Zords coming out, and the only other one that's being rumored is the whale. Granted, we have no information regarding the 4th quarter as far as like images or concrete information, but given the number of mechs that we have now, the auxiliaries that we have, unless we are doing something akin to Gal Ranger, which would honestly make a lot of sense given that against the 40th anniversary, and a lot of this is kind of harkening to the Gal Ranger concept of the gotta catch 'em all power animal phase, it's entirely possible we can get additional Zords in the 4th quarter, especially for a Christmas release. But then again, given it's going to be so close to the end of the series, it's basically saying if we follow the logic right now, which is they're not getting additional Zords, which means they're getting no forms. They're going to be these same Rangers for the rest of the season. If we assume they're going to get Zords in the fourth quarter, then that means somewhere in the last quarter of the series, maybe the last 10 episodes, that's when they're going to get their powered up forms, or excuse me, Visor Up forms, towards the end of the series. And then at that point, it becomes, well, what's the point? Yes, it is based on characters, based on plot and everything, but I would find it odd that you would introduce a power up at the very end of the series because again, let's look at it this way. It would be like introducing. Let's go back to another like the Geiki power up form at the end of Geiki Ranger instead of where they did in the series. That we got 10 episodes left, so we're going to introduce a new power-up form. Because even when you're talking about marketing, it's going to be odd to release a whole new set of Zords within the fourth quarter, as well as new action figures to represent that, because yes, there is a Duo Gorilla action figure out there to correspond with the Eagle. So not only are you going to release Zords in the fourth quarter, but new vinyl figures? That's a bit odd in itself. So, I think what ultimately happened here is that the marching orders were probably, let's design it to give them all these Visor Up forms, but then somewhere down the production process, or maybe when the first episode aired or whatever, they decided, no, we're not going to do it. We have to leave the designs where they are, but only going to give the power-ups to the Red Ranger. And keep in mind, the series is probably already written out at this point. They haven't filmed all the episodes yet. Filming is still going on as we are watching the series, which is kind of an odd thing to think about. But it seems like this would have to be a concept introduced at the beginning of production before we actually got into it, because I don't think we're going to get to the point where they're going to say, well, we got to give the other forms to them, so make something up. That's just something that's not going to happen. For an epilogue movie, possibly, who knows, and all that, but I would really hate for it to be an epilogue movie or the crossover movie that happens after the series with the 41st Sentai, where these guys get their Visor Up forms. So what's my ultimate point here? If you listen to this log, you're probably asking, hey Rick, what's your point? What's the big point? My point is that I don't like that they're giving the Red Ranger all this cool stuff and leaving the other characters in the dust as far as power-ups and everything else. Because, again, we focus on story, focus on characters, they're doing good about that, but I guess, look at it this way, what's the point of being the Yellow Ranger if all you get is a giant pair of claws, I just kind of think that we should treat all the Rangers equally. Going back to, let's look at Gal Ranger Wild Force. Red Ranger had 3 Zords. Yellow Ranger had 3 Zords. Black Ranger had 3 Zords. I believe the Blue Ranger only had 2. And then the White Ranger, she had 3. Silver Ranger had 3 as well. Everybody had equal amount of Zords except for the Blue Ranger. I don't know why he got left out, and that has always really kind of bugged me throughout the series. But again, everybody got an equal amount of Zords. Even look at the third season of Mighty Morphin Kaku Ranger. Everybody got a Ninja Zord, everybody got a Shogun Zord, and then everybody got a Battleborg in terms of Kaku Ranger, and of course Power Rangers with 6 Rangers. That's a little bit of a different story. But the idea is that I really think that all the characters need to be treated equal throughout the series, and that it really bothers me that you introduce this concept that is supposed to be for all the Rangers, or at least appears in that guise, but then you don't follow through with it, or you don't do it, and you just like, Red Ranger is important, we focus on the Red Ranger, and it seems to be, I don't know why we focus so much on the Red Ranger. Yes, he is the leader of the team, I get that, but it just seems to me that they're a team. They should be treated equally. Yes, your 6 Ranger can get the cooler outfit or the alternate outfit with the shield. I get that. That's fine. Yes, your Red Ranger can have a secondary Zord that's probably more powerful than the other Zords combined. But I really think that on teams, everybody should at least get one Zord of their own, and if there are multiple Zords, they either need to be shared or they need to be like auxiliary Zords, or they need to be piloted by the Rangers individually. I mean, again, here's a good example. Look at Go Buster. Each of the 5 Rangers got their own Zords, and then of course when you got to the Lion, yes, it was kind of controlled by a Red Ranger, but it was a sentient Zord who did things on his own, and the Red Rangers happened to use it a little bit more, and I was perfectly fine with the way that worked out. But even look at, Kyryuger, where every Ranger has one Zord. That's it. That's the Zord that they control. I thought that worked out perfectly. Then you get to Tokyuger, and you get to Ninja and all that. It's just, I just don't like the imbalance. Because, again, back in the day, it used to be, when we first started out with Power Rangers, everybody got one Zord, and you got Titanus. And when they started introducing Zords, heck, when they first introduced vehicles in Sentai, they were group vehicles, the flying fortresses and the ships that everybody was in. The first Robo they ever introduced was a Megazord that was piloted by everybody. Then when they started doing individual vehicles, they were shared by everybody. And then we got to Mask Band, everybody got their individual vehicle, and we've pretty much had that. But now that we've gone to the marketing side of it, and now we have to have more vehicles, everybody wants to give them to the Red Ranger. I would love to see a series where the Pink Ranger gets 4 really awesome Zords and the Red Ranger is stuck with one. Can we at least do that? Can we throw a curveball in there? Because if we're not going to treat everybody equal, can we at least throw the proportion out and not make it like that the Red Ranger has to get all this stuff because he's the leader? Maybe the girl gets all the stuff because she's the girl. She gets all the cool stuff, I don't know. But yeah, Zoolager, great series so far. It's just one of those things that kind of bugs me. I think we need to treat all the Rangers, give them all the equal number of Zords here, and kind of give people a reason to be interested in these characters. Because I really like Leo. I think he's a great character, and I'm interested in him. But let's give him another Zord. Let's give him an alternate form. Let's give him a cool weapon. Let's give him something else for us to like about him other than just him being Leo, which I know is an odd thing to go ahead and say, but how about instead of having a mole drill auxiliary Zord, we give Leo another Zord all to his own? I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay, I think I've prattled on enough about this particular topic. What do you guys think, given what we have in Zoology? Do you think they're going to give every Ranger Visor Up mode? Do you think they're not going to give Visor Up mode? And of course, what are your thoughts about the unequal distribution of power-ups, Zords, and weapons within the Sentai and Power Ranger franchises? Whatever you decide, hey, let me know in the comments below. I'm very interested in seeing what most people think about it. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.